Hello and welcome. My name is Chris Principe. I'm publisher of Financial IT, and I'm thrilled to be coming to you today live from Money20. Truly one of the great events that we have in this industry, and it is the must be at and be seen at event in Europe. And we're coming to you from Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Really an amazing country, very welcoming, and perfect for Money20. I'm here with Marcin. Marcin, how are you today?
I'm very good, very energized. Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, great. Well, I want you to use some of that energy and tell us about the company.
Right. So I'm working with Marqeta. I'm heading European business of Marqeta. Marqeta is in business of very high level speaking, modern card issuing and card processing. And as I said, I have the great honor and pleasure to drive Marqeta's growth into Europe.
Well, great. What kind of challenges are you solving for your customers?
I think given basically the number of contexts in which card can be issued, we are solving for pretty much everything that can be related to any card program. That irrespective whether this is consumer or commercial card, this is debit or credit card. So what we bring as a company, I think, is first of all very, very modern platform of card processing and ancillary or managed services around that to make the program not only work, so not the card only work and transacting, but the life cycle of the customer, so onboarding of the customer and lifetime experience related to disputes, claims, etc., also coming in a package, also working. And I think what is a great thing to know about Marqeta is, first of all, the platform is really scalable. So once integrated, it can support development of the new use cases, which company may plan to do. Originally starting from consumer, moving to commercial, starting from credit, but also debit later on. The other element is, I think, very, very proven scalability. So the platform operates multi-billion. Last year, we processed through the platform nearly 300 billion of card transaction issued by our customers or for our customers. So I think those are the 2 points I would definitely point out.
Well, I'll tell you two really interesting points. One, it sounds like the volume is huge and only growing. And number two is it's like a one-stop platform. Am I right in saying that?
The way the way we build it is intended to be so. Obviously, in certain elements of making the program work, like card issuing, the BIN sponsorship, the funding, we bring partners in a package. Like in the US, we have number of banking partners, right. But I think making it one stop in terms of the process, in terms of customer journey to start the program and later on run the program, this is what we definitely bring. And this is also why I think an important element of our European journey was what was announced and Mike shared during our earnings call, the first four in this year related to the planned acquisition of Transact Pay in Europe.
Well, with that transaction of Transact Pay, it sounds like it's kind of a big gulp to swallow. How are you going about that?
Right.
Pulling them in and still keeping everyone's identities?
Right. So I think obviously I need to say about that, the acquisition itself is still in the process of regulatory approvals until basically we can call it an acquisition. But I think, especially for the American part of audience, maybe a word of explanation how in this particular aspect European market or Europe is different. So in the US, the only party who can issue the card or be a BIN sponsor is a bank. In Europe, those two elements were allowed to be separated. The market was deregulated, not necessarily something you, especially in the US, mostly connect Europe, right? Deregulation is much more that regulation, but it was deregulated. So there are entities licensed specifically for being a BIN sponsor and issue the money, and they have banks as the partners in the backend for the fund holding and fund flow execution, right? So I think Transact Pay in this aspect is licensed to issue money, specifically issue cards and funds related, in the UK and in Europe, right? And obviously, we are at the moment still ahead of the acquisition. We are planning how we will operate basically this more unified construct. But one thing is for sure, and this is one of the key reasons for us to basically go this path, especially the very large companies that would like to be, broadly speaking, bringing the embedded finance into what they do. They not necessarily like operational complexity of both building the program and operating the program with multiple parties, right? They need one stop, as we discussed before. And I think this particular element, this is something we started to build with Transact Pay already at the stage where we were the partners. What is the customer-friendly, robust, but still fast process to make the program actually started? Later on, obviously, operated.
Well, certainly exciting with the acquisition, and I know you're waiting for that regulatory approval, and I really appreciate the difference in understanding the U.S. market versus the European market. Right. And yeah, the main difference, of course, is in Europe, you can work with non-bank partners.
Yeah.
So when you work with a bank partner or a non-bank partner, do you have to approach it a little differently?
I think to some extent, yes. Because the bank partner being the issuer in the same time, they basically, as a single point, they have their own number of regulatory and other rules and elements they need to take into account when approving the program, not only from, again, regulatory perspective to issue, but also related to basically holding the funds, funding the program, etc., etc. I think in this very aspect, when we work with Transact Pay, who is issuing the funds, they have long list of the banks in the backend. So the program that is not, for example, for whatever reasons, acceptable for Bank One, can find banking home among basically the rest of the banking partners. So I think it's also simplifying down to single entry point, providing the diversity of the backend on multiple banking partners.
Well, really interesting in how you're able to manage that, and the single entry point into multiple partners almost mirrors being here today at Money 2020. We have one main entrance and there's everything on the inside.
Oh yeah.
So why did you guys choose to be here with us at Money 2020?
I think Money 2020 in general, for many, many years, on each and every continent, is a platform bringing the ecosystem. Not only potential customers, but potential partners, competitors as well. So I think it's first reason to be here is, first of all, to be aware and in a very packaged format of what's going on, right? So that's I think number one. I think number two is this is also a platform where it's very easy in a very concise way to bring our story and tell who we are. And I think especially with all the historical growth that we have in Europe, let's be mindful. Our business, Marqeta's business in Europe, continues to grow over 100% year-on-year basis. So we see a strong growth, but I think we are still less known here in Europe than we are in the US. So this is, let's face it, this is also the platform to bring our awareness higher and basically translate that or be able to translate it to even more accelerated growth in the future.
Well, you hit upon the key word. I mean, first, Money 2020, it's a great platform. We enjoy being here and being able to share time with people like yourself. But the future, this is what's much more interesting. And I think one thing to keep in mind is that when we talk about the future, nobody can say you're wrong today. So, Marcin, give us some bold statements.
I think basically what I can say is basically related to what we see as a trend, as basically demand on the market and how we are building hence our future on. I think first of all, in context of, broadly speaking, fintech and financial services and the segments and the priorities, Europe is basically largely in process and ahead of the big game for SMBs, broadly speaking. Yeah. Historically, it was easier for a number of reasons to address consumers and transactional needs of consumers. This is what fintech industry was doing for years. But SMB is equally large, if not larger, when it gets to the potential. It's more difficult, but given that consumer part of the market is reaching maturity from the fintech perspective, SMB is really the focus today, and I believe also going forward. And SMBs are, let's face it, struggling with number of the elements that fintechs that are our customers, or in some cases ourselves, but we are not addressing fintech. So primarily our customers are gradually bringing to the market, starting from number one, very basic today, seemingly getting paid and offering the buyers alternatives to basically pay with whatever the buyer prefers. Now, make it very practical. SMBs, if they want to be on par and stay basically in the game for consumer preference with the very large, for example, e-commerce, it's harder for them to bring all the suite of basically payment options, especially if they operate internationally as well. And I think this is what we bring through our customers as well, integrating, for example, buy now, pay later into the card, that maybe not directly for the SMBs, but for the benefit of SMBs, for the cards issued, allows SMBs also to participate in buy now, pay later. That is very strong preference in customers, that increasing the basket, that is making their customer or consumer stay and come back. So this is element number one. Element number two, SMBs are struggling a lot with basically all the costs related to operating the costs and expenses, right? It's heavy, it's sucking resources. They don't have advanced systems. They are matching and patching basically all the elements of spend related to basically their business, and they don't have resources to make it. And this is where our customers like Spendesk and Expense Management or other customers like ourselves bring the solution. We are basically powering the card behind that. And I think the next biggest part of the future game in Europe is finding the way to lend or provide the SMB with working capital, which classical banking with the historical approach to scoring and financial risks is basically providing to some extent, but is not addressing all the types of the SMBs that certain segments or individual small and medium enterprises are looked out, right? And there is more and more basically technology coming together with elements of funding, with card being one of the elements that will pave the future in Europe as well towards allowing SMBs to increase their working capital. So I think that those are the big elements of the future that especially we see among our customers. We see the market going, and I think this is also what we are planning to largely support and work with.
Well, Marcin, I really appreciate that. I mean, it's some bold prediction for the future. It just speaks of a ton of potential. And we're really glad to be able to spend a little bit of time with yourself. My best wishes to the success of yourself and Marqeta. And thank you very much for joining Financial IT here at Money 2020.